Mr. Edit Man presents. Has your pet ever done something that changed your life completely? I went out for a run around my family's land one morning. As usual, at around 8:00 am, my Doberman, Bonnie, runs along with me all the time. I ran with my music on and was completely oblivious to the copperhead that was headed straight for me. It strikes out at me and missed only slightly. When I realized what it was, I panicked and, like my usually clumsy self, fell. It came back and Bonnie jumped in front of it and took the bite herself. Her cry was absolutely horrible. It had her right hind leg. She managed to turn around and rip it off, proceeding to tear it apart. Afterwards she fell to the ground and her breathing was getting quicker. I picked her up, as heavy as she was, and ran her to my truck. I drove as fast as I could to the vet. Thankfully I got her there quick enough for them to save her. My dog saved me from that copperhead, and she still lives. I love that dog so much. Since I have only heard this story, and do not actually remember it, it probably changed my mom's life more than mine. But when I was little we lived on 14 acres right on a riverbank. There was one day that my, very pregnant, mom brought me home from grocery shopping. I was about to put me inside and went back out to get the rest of the groceries. I somehow snuck out the door and wandered down to the river. My mom freaked out when she went into the house and could not find me and headed for the river, sure that I was drowning. She found me standing with my toes on the very edge of the river and our German Short-haired pointer sitting very calmly behind me with my shirt in his mouth, holding me back. I probably owe that dog my life. I was visiting family with my mother, and while they were in the house drinking wine and giggling, I went to the backyard, which had a pool. They had a larger dog, and I was afraid of dogs at the time. I was about 7. As I was trying to play keep away around the pool to stay as far away from the dog as possible, I fell in. Mind you, this was the 3rd time I had almost drowned in my life. The dog, who I had avoided and treated like crap, jumped in the water. No one heard my gurgled cries evidently, and pulled me close enough to the edge that I got out. I cried for my mother, but she still did not come out to help. I ended up going inside, and I got smacked for going into the pool in my clothes. That was the day that I learned 2 things. I needed to learn how to swim, and I was not my mother's favorite child. When I was about 6, 7 I lived pretty close to a lake. I was splashing around with my grandma and my German Shepherd, long dead now. Unfortunately, there's dozens of little beaches and rarely many people at most of them. So we always picked the one closest to my house. As I was walking out of the lake, some dude runs up and grabs me. I start wailing while he's running off, still holding me. My grandma and I are both freaking out, and she could not exactly do much. This is Buddy's cue to mouth tackle the back of this dude's leg. He goes down pretty hard, as do I. Have a nice scar on my head from hitting the pavement. I do not remember much, except for my grandma crying, some police, and everyone showering the dog in affection. It was like a cheesy movie, except it all happened really fast. A fake. The guy managed to initially get away after fighting off my dog, but eventually showed up at a hospital for bite wounds and was arrested shortly after. Who knows what could have been had Buddy not been there. The dog loved children and was immediately at attention of me, or my cousins started crying/yelling, etc. Best dog I have ever owned. I refer to my dog as my 80-pound personal trainer with ear infections. He keeps me running every day, even when I do not want to. I was living with an abusive boyfriend and my cat Buddy, BF, abused her, too. She was terrified of any man that came to the apartment, until a friend of a friend came over. She loved him. She'd follow him all over the place. It was funny. I finally got the nerve to kick out the asshole, but needed a place to live. Friend of a friend lost his roommates, so I moved in. We eventually got married and have been for 19 years. 14 of those were shared with Buddy. We both have tats commemorating her. To sum it up, cat picked husband and we lived happily ever after. One day I was walking my dog, and on our way back to my house, a squirrel ran into a garage. I let go of the leash thinking, hey, we're home. He would not run away or anything. Well, turns out, the squirrel runs out of the garage and my dog runs after him. As a last resort, I step on his leash to keep him from running away. It wraps around my ankle and I fall to the ground. It was a little jarring, but I'm okay. The next day my leg puffs up to the point where I'm limping very badly. We go to the doctor and find out that, because I had twisted and fell, because of my squirrel hungry dog, it aggravated a blood clot. Specifically, a DVT, deep vein thrombosis, which caused the swelling. Since I'm only 15, Blood clots are not common. So the doctor took more tests, and we found out what caused the clot was a malignant tumor near my bladder, the size of a grapefruit. They also found the cancer had spread. Stage 4. So I started treatment immediately. It's been 10 months since my dog caused me to fall. Today I'm cancer free and almost finished with chemo. Not exactly a pet, but when I was visiting friends up in Nunavut there was a moose that used to hang around and get drunk off of fermented apples near their house. It was surprisingly chill with people, probably because it was drunk as duck most of the time. Anyways, one day my friend and I get back to his place and the moose is standing right on his doorstep blocking the door. Only an idiot ducks with a full grown moose, so we let it be and get back in the car to wait for it to leave. After a few minutes a couple of mounties show up ... then a couple more ... then more ... Up there you do not normally see more than 2 cops at a time, so it was a bit of a strange response to a moose on the doorstep, especially considering we had not called anyone. It turns out they weren't not there for the moose. They were there for a man who had beaten his girlfriend, stole her shotgun, robbed a store, and was last seen being chased by a drunken moose right into my friend's house. If the moose had not been blocking the door the guy probably would have shot us or something. It took the cops hours to get him to come out, and he was absolutely wasted when he did. When I was around 16 my older brother brought home this awesome pit whose owners were getting divorced and moving away. We'd never had a dog before, since my mom was pretty nervous around them from bad experiences as a child. He was about 8 months old, just really handsome with a patch of color over his eye, so the former owners had dubbed him Pirate. My younger brother and I were super jazzed, and we buy him all the requisite dog stuff, so we could take him out. We'd usually walk him around our neighborhood together. But on this one particular day my brother had gone to a friend's house, so I took him out by myself. It was summer, high noon, and getting super hot, so I decided to cut the walk short and go through an alley that would take me back to my side of the block. I turned to go down the alley and Pirate would not move. He just looks at me. I coax and tug on his leash, and it's like dragging a boulder. He seriously does not want to go down the alley, but me being new to dogs, and having been a cat person for many years, I just think has being difficult for the hell of it. Finally, he sees my insistence and just up and bolts, me flying behind yelling at him to stop, but he keeps going. Mad Dash Road Runner style. As we near the end of the alley, I see this older guy just standing there like a statue, staring at me with his pants all the way down and his dick out. I'm in complete shock and do not even believe what I'm seeing. Pirate does not pause for a second, and by then I'm all for running. So we run all the way back to my house, where I immediately start yelling my head off about the naked guy by the alley. My mom calls the cops. My stepdad drives down the street looking for the guy and sees our neighbors flipping out because they had driven by and seen him too. Although he was gone by the time they turned around to get a closer look. There had been girls getting attacked and raped in our area that whole summer, so it was definitely serious, and I had to file a report. I never thought I'd be a dog person until I met Pirate. I cannot even imagine what would have happened if he had not been with me. I miss that dog so much. Not as serious as some of the other stories on here. I met my girlfriend of 2 years because of my dog. I was out walking Boots, my dog, in the local park when this cute blonde walks over to say hello. It's not unusual for people to come over to talk to other people's dogs in this park, and she asks the usual questions. Is it a boy or girl? What's his name and so on. She's crouching down petting him when he barks once or twice, and I said lamely. He asked if he can have your number, but she laughed and gave it to me. I still cannot believe it worked, but my life is much better now because of Boots. I was giving my dog, Mittens, a morning walk a few years ago. He was named after the 08 Romney campaign. My then boyfriend thought it'd be hilarious. Anyway, Mid was really weirdly determined to keep looking at this one trash can. I tried to get him to keep walking, but he would start growling as soon as I tugged his leash away from it. So I decided to look at what's in there, and am surprised I did not notice the smell or anything before. I guess I had been breathing out when I was close enough. There was an insane amount of flies buzzing around it, and I was just thinking, oh whatever, rotten meat, when I noticed a tiny patch of skin. Being brave, I decided to poke a little more, and that's when I realized it was a tiny arm and hand. I called the police. They pulled out the naked body of a dead 3-year-old boy. Eventually they identified the kid. He was from a few towns over and had gone missing a week before, and the police figure the kidnapper must have driven by at night to drop the body there. They interviewed everyone on my block, but no one said they saw anything suspicious, and as far as I know, they never pinned it on anyone. It still makes me sick thinking about it now. One day my 13-year-old cat figured out that I was controlling the laser pointer. I swear she looked so hurt and betrayed. Not me, but my little brother's dog quite literally saved his life. He was living in a very old house and something went wrong with the wood heating. I apologize for not knowing the exact details. That caused his house to fill up with toxic black smoke. My brother was already asleep when this happened, so the carbon monoxide from the smoke just made him unconscious. Brutus, his dog, repeatedly bit his arm until the pain snapped him out of it, and then helped drag him towards the door. Has basically a 140 pounds golden lab version of Lassie. I was crying once at my computer desk when my cat jumped into my desk and started rubbing her head against mine. She lied down next to me and rubbed her head against mine until I stopped crying. Then she laid down on my lap and slept there. I knew I was going to love her forever. My dog, Kami, defended me and my friend from her. My friend's crazy, abusive boyfriend. We both knew he was an abusive sociopath. But of course, being his girlfriend, this was something that she was in denial about for a long time. Finally, she could not deny it anymore and tried to leave him. He beat the malarkey out of her. She managed to get away from him and drove the short distance to my house to be safe. My house was not safe, though. He followed her, kicked through the glass on the French doors, and unlocked the bolt from the inside. I wish I could say that either of us made a valorous stand against him, but we did not. She had already gone a few rounds with him and neither of us had any kind of self-defense training. He cornered us quickly and used his fists and my scarves to subdue us. He told us what he was going to do to us both. Not going to repeat it, and I had pretty much resigned myself to it. Too beaten to fight, and for whatever reason, it was not in me to beg either. I just went cold and numb. I could not even feel the physical hurt. Mentally, I just left. That's when Kami, my pit/lab mix, finally broke through the remainder of the French doors and came barreling into the room. Now, Kami is a sweet, loving, goofy dog. She was as gentle as can be with all of the neighborhood kids and had never so much as snarled. She was even kinda dumb. A silly, sweet girl. But when Kami got a hold of this guy, she was a different animal. She was wild-eyed and foaming at the mouth, bleeding from all of the cuts she'd gotten from the glass and not giving a single duck. She was on top of him in the blink of an eye, and I cannot even describe the sound coming out of her. I counted down in my head until the moment when she ripped that ducker's face off. It never happened. The sound of the garage door opening froze us all in place. My father was home. The guy tried to take advantage of the moment and get away from her, but Kami backed him into a corner and barked and snarled her head off. My dad must have understood something about that sound because he was in that room in no time flat, with gun in hand. The police came. Reports were filed. The trial was held, and he went away. Apparently this was not even his first assault. Kami's cuts healed, and so did ours. We no longer have French doors. She's an old girl now. An old, sweet, loving girl. Her mind is starting to go, and so are her hind legs. She may not remember what she did for me and my friend, but I would not forget. She may be nearing the end of her days, but I will never see a weak, useless old dog. She's my dog. I do not know what all my friend's crazy boyfriend might have done. I do not even know what I owe her. And that's the beauty of it. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. Click the thumbs up button since you made it until the end. Bam. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else or watch more videos. That's about it. There is no more here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Okay. This is not a secret, but subscribe for more videos like this.